How well do you know the people who live next door to you?
Well, I can't say I know my neighbors very well, but I guess I do know something about them, like where they're from and what they do for a living.
How often do you see them? Why? Why not?
Though I can't help bumping into them from time to time. We never really talked. You know, it's like you just don't feel like talking to a stranger unless he or she first speaks to you. And I guess he thinks the same about me.
What kinds of problems do people sometimes have with their neighbors?
Mm. Well, I've never had any problems with my neighbors, or maybe just not yet. But I've heard people talk about it from time to time. Um, And it seems to me that people complain about the noise their neighbors make quite a lot. Mm, Apart from that, I just can't think of anything else right now.
How do you think neighbors can help each other?
It's not really easy for neighbors to help each other if they're not acquainted well. That I mean small help. But I guess neighbors can really come in handy in case of emergency. Mm. That's all I have in mind at the moment.
Describe a time when you were asked to give your opinion in a questionnaire or survey.
This is the customer satisfaction survey I'm going to talk about. Once I had dinner in a restaurant with my friends. After we paid our bill, a manager-looking guy came to us, smiled and said, "Would you mind kindly giving us a feedback on our service, our food and service, that we may improve in the future?" Why, I wouldn't mind, but what price would you give us? Um, I thought to myself before I could spell out my mind. The manager said, as gratitude, we would give you this $100 coupon. What could I say now? So I said his food was good and service was superb, that he didn't need to worry about improving or anything, blah blah blah. Having said this, I felt very good because I felt I was really treated like God. I hope every other restaurant or business firms could learn from this restaurant and pay due attention to their customers' opinions.
What kinds of organization want to find out about people's opinions?
Uh, well, I guess a lot of organizations would do, especially those non-governmental enterprises. I believe that they would pay more attention to their customers and staff's thing because their choices and decisions um, directly affect the survival and the and the minds of the company.
Do you think that questionnaires or surveys are good ways of finding out people's opinions?
Yes, I would do. Uh, yes, I do think so. Mm, because the cost of doing questionnaires or surveys is very low, mm, and they are easy to operate. The surveyors are easy to train. Samples can be easily collected. What else uh, what else could you ask when you have a cheap source of data and easy to operate scheme? So I'm totally for questionnaires or surveys.
What reasons might people have for not wanting to give their opinions?
I don't know about others, but I always use sorry. busy or I'm occupied at the moment as excuses to slip off. I guess there must be a lot of others like me.
Do you think it would be a good idea for schools to ask students their opinions about lessons?
Well, yes and no. Asking students their opinions is a great leap forward toward education reformation, but it has both advantages and disadvantages, all of which have to be thought through and carefully measured before any major steps are taken.
What would the advantages for schools be if they asked students their opinions?
The most obvious advantage is that schools can get not only first-hand but also timely feedback from students about the education service they provide, and therefore will be able to make adjustments to better meet students' needs. Apart from this, there must be many other advantages, but this is the most obvious one I can think of now at this moment.
Would there be any disadvantages in asking students' opinions?
Once schools start ask students' opinions, all kinds of ideas will start to pour in, realistic and unrealistic, constructive and unconstructive, and even destructive. It will only make schools look bad if schools don't make any response to students' suggestions. But what can you do if all that students ask is less work, more play? Children are just not old, mature enough to get involved in this. If schools want to reform, they should rely on their own experiences and wisdom.